So there you have it, the 4 reasons why I did not participate in the climb of Mount Kilimanjaro. But boy, am I enjoying doing this blog and seeing Barbara's experience. On a more serious note, how was it possible that mountainforecast.com got the weather forecast so wrong? So Barbara was at the top of Africa. Now she's going to be at the tip of Africa. Viva Cuba y la gente cubana. Adios. Hi, Lobo again from Travels with Lobo and Barbara. The last blog, Kilimanjaro, Alarm Bells in Victoria, British Columbia, ended with, I took a deep, deep breath. And there it was. And that was with reference to the email I received from Bryson Tours. Well, here's the email, January 15th. Hello, Lobo. I am glad to have this opportunity to inform you that Barbara and Cornelia have made it. They've made it to the top of Africa. The top of Africa. I'm ad-libbing here. Today they're heading to the last camp where they will be spending the last night on the mountain. And they're finishing up tomorrow. Best wishes, Bryson. Bryson Tours, Moshi, Tanzania. Wow, I couldn't believe it. I simply could not believe it. I reread the email, and the rush of adrenaline that went through me was unbelievable. It was uplifting, to say the least. My overreaction, of course, was influenced greatly by the Alarm Bells in Victoria blog, which was based upon a weather forecast of 91 centimeters of snow. What conclusion do I draw from all this? If you have a loved one on a Kilimanjaro climb, forget about looking at the weather forecast. As you can see in my situation, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. So just forget about it and hope for the best, because the situation is in the hands of the tour operator and the team. Hopefully they will make the best call, as it did in this case. Let it be said that Barbara and Cornelia did not know anything. They were not aware of the weather forecast, and in retrospect, that was a really good thing. On a more serious note, how was it possible that mountainforecast.com got the weather forecast so wrong? I was looking at these numbers for 3 days, and for 3 days it called for the same thing. Snowfall of 91 centimeters at the top levels of Mount Kilimanjaro. As you can see in the day 6 video, there was snow, but nothing near the doomsday scenario that was predicted in the weather forecasts. So I can only conclude that sharing this great experience with Barbara and Cornelia would have been so much better had I kept my type A personality in check, and if I would not have checked the weather forecast. On another matter, why did I not join in the climbing of Mount Kilimanjaro? Well, there were 4 reasons, and I'll go into those in more detail than you would like, but I'm going to go into it. Number 1, past history has shown that I'm very sensitive to altitude sickness. Several years ago, while traveling from Iquique, Chile, which is at sea level, to the highest capital in the world at 16,000 feet, and that would be La Paz, Bolivia, I was struck by altitude sickness in a form of severe headaches, and I mean severe, splitting headache, and repeated, wretched throwing up. It was miserable, incredibly miserable. It was enough that I turned around and spread it over 2 days to try and get up to La Paz. I had to beat a quick retreat and try another day, in other words. A more recent experience was in Hawaii when we drove to the top of the highest peak in Hawaii on the Big Island. It's called Mauna Kea, 13,796 feet. This time I knew what the drill was, and when I felt the symptoms of altitude sickness, in this case the headache coming on, We quickly got off the mountain, and that seemed to take care of it. Reason number 2. Have you ever heard of sleep apnea? If you have, raise your hand. Ah, I see a few of you have. But sleep apnea is an important health issue that is generally not well known. Among other things, I wonder, for instance, how many people know that signs of dementia, in fact, there are symptoms of sleep apnea that can be reversed with a proper treatment. So back to obstructive sleep apnea. It is potentially a very serious sleeping disorder in which breathing repeatedly stops and starts due to relaxation of the upper airway muscles, causing the breathing passage to momentarily close down. You may have sleep apnea if you snore loudly, as many people do, and you feel tired even after a full night's sleep. This may be a very serious condition, as it was in my case. Bottom line, is there a cure? No, not a cure, but a CPAP helps. What is a CPAP? Well, it's a CPAP machine. CPAP stands for continuous positive airway pressure. So the CPAP machine, standing beside your bed, provides continuous positive airway pressure by means of a hose going to your nose or a mouthpiece. Sounds awful, doesn't it? No, it's not awful. You get used to it very quickly, and considering the benefit that you no longer snore and no longer stop breathing during your sleep, how can you not like it? Is the CPAP machine noisy? That was my big concern. It is totally quiet, and Barbara sleeps like a baby beside me. That was a big relief. That was a big relief for me, as I was concerned about noise. Bottom line, there is no electrical plug on Mount Kilimanjaro that you can use or I can use. So sleeping with a CPAP is out of the question. And I would not voluntarily try and sleep without my CPAP. So end of that story. The third reason that I did not join in on the Mount Kilimanjaro trip, if I needed one, and I didn't, would have been that Barbara has been wanting to take a trip with her old friend Cornelia for a long time. They've been friends since they met in a Lutheran church in Montreal as teenagers. So this was the time to fulfill that particular wish. The fourth reason was not evident to me before doing this blog. I now realize that the trip would have been simply too expensive for me. Remember, Travels with Lobo over the years has always been a blog for budget traveling. And climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, doing an African safari, and going to Cape Town in South Africa blows the budget. So I would not have been a willing participant in that experiment. So there you have it, the 4 reasons why I did not participate in the climb of Mount Kilimanjaro. But boy, am I enjoying doing this blog and seeing Barbara's experience. Thank you. What does the future hold from Travels with Barbara? It will be the finishing of the Kilimanjaro blog, which is just about finished. Then on to South Africa for a lovely stay in that wonderful city at the tip of Africa. So Barbara was at the top of Africa. Now she's going to be at the tip of Africa. I never thought about that, but that's a nice little coincidence. And then from Travels with Lobo, that would be me. I recently spent 5 weeks in Cuba. It was a fabulous experience. I'd always put Cuba off somewhere in the distance. I was kind of put off by the political regime that existed in Cuba. But Cuba's undergoing a lot of changes, and I wanted to see Cuba before, well, you know what. So yeah, I have 50 hours of video, and I should be able to extract a little bit of something for a blog on Cuba. So looking forward to doing that. It won't be for a couple of months, but it should keep me busy for quite a while. So, viva Cuba y la gente cubana. Adios.